Tim Snyder is a professor of history at Yale University. He's authored best-selling books about authoritarian regimes, books like On Tyranny, 20 Lessons from the 20th Century, and The Road to Unfreedom, Russia, Europe, America. Also, Bloodlands, Europe between Hitler and Stalin. Tim Snyder's been studying authoritarianism for years, so when he's got something to say about Putin's war in Ukraine, I listen. Snyder wrote today that Vladimir Putin is intent on crushing the Ukrainian people, but at great cost to Russia. In his piece entitled, "By Denying a Ukrainian Culture, Putin Flattens His Own," Snyder writes, quote, Vladimir Putin wants to crush people into one. He says God told him that Ukrainian souls are Russian. History revealed to him that Ukraine strives to be one with Russia, the very language he speaks, and titles him to invade any country where Russia is spoken. An official news service removed any ambiguity a few days ago, publishing a text advocating the complete elimination of the Ukrainian nation as such. And so, Ukraine must be crushed, and anyone who thinks or speaks of Ukraine must be eliminated, end quote. Joining us now is Professor Timothy Snyder. He's a professor of history at Yale University. Professor Snyder, thank you for being with us tonight. We talked earlier in the show about how Russia is using propaganda and disinformation. Your piece today focuses on what this war is doing to Russian culture and identity. I'd love if you could tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, the central idea of empire is that the other side has no state. The other side has no nation. Therefore, we, the superior people, here the Russians, have the right to go in and say who should be in charge and who is who. But the problem is that as you attempt to carry out these things, you find yourself confronted with a real state and a real people who resist you. And as you attempt to crush them, you do terrible things to yourself. I mean, as you showed in the last segment, the attempt to justify, to find some kind of circular logic that makes all of this somehow acceptable or understandable forces you into all kinds of contortions. And by the end of it, the word propaganda doesn't even really begin to describe it. I mean, this is just a kind of perverted hate speech. And when all you've got is television, and all television is doing is this kind of hate speech, then at the end of the day, among the many other evils you've committed, is a kind of destruction of your own culture.
As Alona Minkovsky said in the last segment, tens of millions of Russian Soviets died at the hands of the Nazis. So this idea that neo-Nazis are running Ukraine and the country needs to be denazified sounds bizarre to many people in our audience. But maybe that's why it was settled on by Putin as the reason given to many Russians in support of the invasion.
I mean, one thing that we have to just say about the history is that we have to remember that more Ukrainian civilians, not just proportionally, but in absolute terms, died in the Second World War than Russian civilians. And Ukrainian soldiers also died in huge numbers fighting the German army. More Ukrainian soldiers died fighting the Germans, not just than Americans, but than Americans and Frenchmen and British combined. So I just say that because Ukrainians also have every right to interpret the Second World War. And it's quite reasonable of them to say the Second World War is about somebody invading Ukraine. And right now, someone is invading Ukraine. But as to the Nazi business, I think it's very important to understand what's happening here. The word Nazi has been stripped of any content. It is just a kind of general condemnation. There was an article on Sunday in the official Russian press service called RIA Novosti, which made this very clear. It called for the complete destruction of the Ukrainian nation, beginning with the murder of everyone who identifies with it, on the logic that all Ukrainians are Nazis. But it cleared something up. It said that what we mean by Nazi is not that they actually have any objective characteristics of a Nazi. It just means they're not Russian. They refuse to be Russian. They insist on saying that they're Ukrainian or European. That's what we mean by Nazi. And frankly, that's very clarifying, because what they're admitting here is that all they mean by Nazi is not us. But the other consequence of that is that when you strip the word Nazi of any meaning, you can't notice when you yourself are doing things that are very much like what the Nazis did. You don't notice that you've just invaded the country, that you're trying to destroy its educated classes, right? You can't notice that because all the word Nazi means is the other people.
That's enlightening, and it's one of the reasons why you and others, when writing about authoritarianism and things like that, are very specific with your language, in that the Holocaust doesn't mean all things, and Nazi doesn't mean all things. They have specific meanings. We appreciate it. Timothy Snyder is the author of On Tyranny. He's a professor of history at Yale University, and as always, sir, we thank you for your time.